everybody, this is Ronnie and Brandon. We are doing a series on the business owner for our YouTube channel, FSG TV. This is episode 2 regarding economic downturn. So we wanted to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about some of the things that a business owner can do to be mindful of and prepare for an economic downturn.
Yeah, so for so many of us, 2008 really is still in the back of our mind. It wasn't that long ago, and now things are looking great, and a lot of the challenges that business owners are seeing is that it's just hard to find and retain good talent, which is completely different than what it was 6, 7, 8 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and so there's a few different things I think you can do to help prepare for the next downturn, which is inevitably coming. We don't know when it's going to come. It could be a year, it could be 10 years, but at some point it will come. And I think the biggest thing for business owners is to be intentional about the finances of the business, right? If you take and extend yourself too far, then a downturn can really hurt. But if you are intentional and maybe have a little bit of an emergency fund, I mean, one of the fundamental practices for financial planning, for personal financial planning, is to have that emergency fund. Business owners can do the same thing. As well, you want to look at, are you extending yourself with debt? Interest rates are really low. It's easy to look and say it's cheap money right now, let's get it, but eventually that money rolls over, and if it's not paid off, and the interest rates are higher. So being cautious and intentional about those things. Of course, if you're going to avoid getting loans, then you might be sacrificing on equipment or growth of the company, and so you have to balance those things out and say, what is really the most important thing for the business right now?
Absolutely.
And be careful, right? At the peak when things are really good, to not get a little too excited and overextended.
Absolutely. Well, and as you know, we find in the conversations we're having with our clients about the issues relative to what we remember post 08 and all this urgency and concern and kind of last minute planning that had to occur, right? As opposed to what we recognize sometimes when things go well, like it has since 08, right? Is being flexible, right? And we talked a little bit about that, right? And obviously things like cash flow, right? And
being lean.
Absolutely. And typically with business owners, being mindful of cash flow and what are some of the things that I can do to create flexibility and sustainability to that cash flow.
Well, it takes a unique person to run a good business, to do I'm not going to get a steady paycheck. I'm going to push and try to grow and build my own business and be an entrepreneur. And that same mindset can get us in trouble sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
If you try to take that a little too far, overextend yourself, then that can get you into those situations. And I think the other important thing is to start setting aside assets when things are good into personal. So take more out, put more into your retirement plan, pay off your mortgage at home. Do those types of things when things are good, because tomorrow's not guaranteed for any of us.
Absolutely.
And if the market struggles or the economy struggles or the government comes out with new regulations that hurt your particular industry, having things set aside outside of your business is going to be really, really important.
Well, you mentioned a really good point about the personal side, right? And I think that's something that
it's all related.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's important too to think about a business owner. The advantage and disadvantage of being a business owner is you have those two pockets, right? You have that personal and business pocket that you can use, especially in good times, for good efficient planning. But you made a great point, which is, oftentimes when a business struggles in an economic downturn, the business owner isn't getting a paycheck. Everybody else is getting a paycheck.
Sure.
The business owner isn't getting a paycheck. They're having to now go do things like dip into their retirement, early withdrawals. Maybe talk a little bit about that as far as...
Yeah, well, I think the opposite too is when things are really good, typically the business owner is saying, well, I'm going to have all this tax bills, now I'm going to spend money on new equipment or put it right back into the business. And I think that's a good thing, but we also have to be careful that you don't have that balance, right? You get a little bit pulled out for personal reasons. Not necessarily to spend, which of course you got to live your lifestyle, but put it into your retirement account. Save it for the future. Save it for a rainy day in the personal side.
Absolutely.
So I think having both of those and being prepared on both ends and finding that balance is a great thing.
Sure.
And not to toot our own horn, but I think a good financial advisor in general, when working with a business owner, is going to help them work through those issues. How do you find that balance? It's a really tricky thing.
Absolutely. Well, and the balance piece, I think, is the big underlying issue, right? Is one of the things is you set up all these good programs like 401ks and some of these employee benefits, and we found when you have a massive economic economic downturn, sometimes because businesses weren't doing the appropriate balance in their planning, they're having to pull those benefits from employees to
Right.
afford it, right? So, to that point is making sure that, you're anticipating, some of those things, our mantra of, planning for the worst, hoping for the best,
Right.
right? And
Right.
keeping those things, in place. So, I think, the summary, I think, of all this is really just, the good planning, making sure that there's preparedness for these things,
Right.
that even when times are good, especially when times are good,
Sure.
you're planning for those type of issues.
Be aware. I think one of the biggest things, being aware that the downturn is coming. We don't know when, but the market goes in cycles, the economy goes in cycles. It is cyclical and it will go down at some point, hopefully not to the extent it did in 2008, but at some point it will go down, and you have to keep that in the back of your mind. Not to say that you're scared to take action, to keep growing and to innovate, but to say, I need to be prepared in case.
Absolutely. No, and I think those are all good points. So, I think to wrap it up, I think it's just really making sure that, you have somebody you've aligned yourself with that can educate you, consult with you on these issues, help you identify clearly these strategies and things that you can do to help really make sure that no matter what happens, your business can still be successful
Absolutely.
and still
Yeah.
strive. So, we hope this has been helpful. We ask that, you like and share our page, as well as take a look at some of the articles on the content that we're doing, as well as some of the videos that we're doing as well, in conjunction with this in helping the business owner. So we thank everybody for their time.
Thanks for watching.